Good evening, Mzansi entrepreneurs. Welcome to tonight's episode. Before we start, I would like to wish all the fathers out there a happy Father's Day, and all the single mothers out there, which is also very important, that hold up the roles or hold down the roles of fatherhoods. Also, happy Father's Day, and may they keep up the good work as well. Today's guest, we can say he is the engineer of pushing entrepreneurship amongst the youth. Today's guest, the word business is his second language, and I'm speaking about none other than Nozulu. I'm speaking than another than Lungile Mpisana, who's going to be joining us later on tonight. Just waiting for him to join in. So if you could please just bear with us for a second. Sorry, we're just waiting for a guest speaker to join in before we kick off the festivities. It should be an interesting topic. So tonight we're just covering the topic in itself said it, that most businesses or most ideas or most great ideas are actually laying out there in the graveyards. So I think as Mzansi entrepreneur, we actually found it very important to actually kind of address this matter, to say, why is it that we've got a lot of young youth that's out there that have got great ideas, be it conceptual ideas, be it ideas that they just woke up and thought about, but they actually don't put those ideas into use. They don't take those ideas into a second stage or into a second step. So that's why we're here today, to kind of try and answer some of those questions, to say, what is it as an individual or as a South African? And if I may to narrow it down a little bit, what is it as a Black South African that I need to do to actually take this idea from start to finish, develop an idea, develop a concept that actually would work, develop a concept that will create job opportunities, allow the economy to flourish. I mean, right now we're sitting at a stage where I believe is one of the greatest of stages in terms of, yes, things are tough. Yes, we are looking at somewhat of a recession. We've got COVID, call it a double recession in that case. We've got COVID, hi Max, we've got COVID as well, implications that are taking place. So for me, it feels like the opportunity is ripe for entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, to take those ideas that they actually conceive and actually make something out of it, make the best out of it. I see Lungile just joined us there. I'm just going to try and accept his request. Hi, Lungile, can you hear us?
Yeah. What's up, man?
Hi, how are you?
Good on yourself, sir.
I'm all right, thanks. And thanks for joining us today, or tonight rather. Um, you missed the
That's
intro. I'd like given one of the best intros of my life. I was proclaiming you to be like, yo, you just missed it. Hope you catch.
Oh man, Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Just for everyone who's joining us tonight is Lungile Mpisane. Some will call him the chief engineer of driving entrepreneurship amongst the youth. I say that the word business is actually his second language. I don't know if he agrees with me on that one. Um, but yeah, Lungile, please tell us about yourself. Who is Lungile?
Good evening. Good evening to everyone that has joined in. And good evening to you, great sir. Igama ngulungile Mpisane. Singompisane singonoZulu omchuma othukela ompafana. And just before I go any further, man, I just want to wish all the fathers a happy Father's Day. Hoping that you're really taking care of the families, young as you may be. And on the same breath, I just want to just call out against the gender-based violence, call out against the abuse of women and children. It cannot be that is how we express our love to the ladies. The brutality needs to stop, and I just hope all the gents out there they're just going to love their loved ones. All right, Lungile is a young guy from 𝐿𝐶𝐿 𝐵𝐿𝐼, right? Growing up, when I spoke about myself, I would say I grew up from a poor family. But actually, as I've been thinking about that deeply, I just want to change that narrative a bit. I come from 𝐋𝐮𝐧𝐠𝐢𝐥𝐞 the streets there, where we grew up, the Sunlight Green Bar being everything. It was a roll-on, it was a soap, it was a Pons, it was everything, you know.
Don't forget the other thing, 𝐵𝐴𝐝.
And the other things, other people used to use it as a toothpaste. I mean, where the sweat, the smell of umusi, you know, the smoke, that which we now call air pollution. It used to be a sweet aroma of warmth where I come from, you know, where you have to change the channel using a plier, you know, tinip tang. And if you miss that one button, it's gone. So basically come from a family that did not have much in terms of the material things that we have today. But the reason I say I want to change that narrative is because when I actually think about it, I come from a wealthy family in terms of love, in terms of care, in terms of support, and basically coming from that background, studied at TUT, studied accounting there, got into a bit of student politics there. I was not the troublesome one, but you know, pushed a bit of activism for the interest and for the well-being of our young people, a better life, a better environment, especially for our young black brothers. Then just moved over into the corporate space, started working. Then we started a business called noZulu Solutions.
Yeah.
noZulu Solutions, it's named after unoZulu, my clan name.
Yeah.
And the reason why we went for noZulu Solutions is because our whole idea, our whole philosophy is generational, you know. So we want to develop a generational mindset.
I think we lost Nozulu there for a second. He seems to be having some networking issues. Just gonna wait for him to join back in. But while we wait for what the points that he's been touching on are very important in the sense that our upbringings they transform us, or they make us the people that we are. It's very important that we as individuals, I believe, when we endeavor into as people and grow as people, it's important that we don't forget our cultural essence, our cultural beings, because in most instances you find that that term, that Ubuntu term, also applies in business. So it's very important that we as individuals. So I see Lungile is just back here. Just accept him. Okay, just waiting for him to connect. Okay. Sorry, we're just having some difficulties getting Lungile back on here. Seems to be the network, some networking issues. Just waiting for him to connect. Hopefully he'll be with us. He'll be back with us in a second. Lungile, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Just waiting. On. I seem to be having some ESCOM problems.
Yeah, load shedding.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah, I was still having those technical difficulties there. It seems like 𝐋𝐮𝐧𝐠𝐞 or 𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐶𝐿 is not allowing us to have this very nice, fruitful conversation. Let's try this again.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? All right. Sorry about that. That's what jealousy looks like.
If you can flip your screen, I think go to something.
Oh boy, what's happening here?
Well,
are we good?
Working, but I can hear you. I think you can.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that disturbance. So we're saying that the reason we went for Nozulu solutions is because our own philosophy and our belief is that, especially as people of our color, we need to start thinking generational. So we know that clan names are generational. They go right to the 4th, 5th, 6th generation and so forth. So we're basically saying that everything that you create, everything that you do, every decision that you take today, every attempt that you make, you must know that you're striking a chord for the next generation. So it depends on what type of tune do you want them to dance to in generations to come. So that's why we went for Nozulu solutions. And we're basically mainly about personal development. We believe that some of the reasons why we struggle as in terms of building our businesses is because we often want to separate who we are from what we're trying to build, you know. So if I'm generally an angry person, it will be difficult for me to run a business that requires me to smile all the time. You know, if I'm generally a violent person, it will be difficult for me to run a business that generally expects me to be humble and kind. So we basically believe that if we're able to shape 𝐿ungile to be this figure into society, to be this figure in the community, to be this figure in the networks that he's in, then we are able then to start speaking business to Lungile. Because if Lungile is lazy, we'll be expecting too much when we want to actually build an empire. You know, so we need to carve the laziness out of it, and that's basically who we are as Nozulu Solutions, and that's basically who Lungile Mpisane is. You know, we try all our best to encourage even the people that we engage to say what you think, what you say, and what you do must not be far off from each other. There must be some form of unity. There must be some form of correlation there, because if you say I love you, but I hang you on a tree, that's something that no one is able to explain. If I say I love you, but I punch you every night, that's something no one can explain. So similarly in business, when you say our values are integrity, but you embezzling funds, you know, you're stealing from your customers, then that's a problem, you know. And we know the saying, the general saying that says, if the head is rotten, if the head is sick, you can't expect the body to perform at full speed, you know. So we need to deal with the head. We need to deal with the individual, whom when we plug into the business society, then we're not going to have a problem. It's mainly what has been killing a lot of our black entrepreneurs. Get people that they succeed, and my mentor, one of my mentors, would say that talent will get you to the top, but character will keep you there. You get a lot of us, especially black guys, who succeed, but because of our scandalous lives, because what we do in the public is different from who we really are when we are alone. It catches up with us, and then it kills everything, you know. So it's not Zulu Solutions. That's what we basically believe in, to say, if we're gonna have this type of a business person, let us not 3 years down the line, 20 years down the line, have this whole business collapse simply because you don't have self-discipline as an individual.
Thank you. So we still having some difficulties with your feed there. We still can't see you there. No, we still can't see you there.
You still can't see me? But I can see myself, man. How crazy is that?
It's like anyways, well, we'll try making you. Try rejoining.
Should I try rejoining? Okay.
Sorry, while Lungia was trying to sort out his feeds. Noted, Gabo. Yes, you can't see him. So he's just trying to sort that out for a second. But I mean, back on the topic, and I think Lungile is making very important comments there, in the sense that business fit is actually very important. It's important as an individual to know whom you are, what you're capable of. And I also believe that as an individual, you don't succeed on your own. You need to rally yourself around people. There is Lungile. Just accept him. just accept Lungile. Yeah? Okay, well, Lungile connecting there. Yeah, you're back on. Yay. Perfect.
Good. Thank you. Sorry about that again.
No worries. Lungile, I was just saying that I think the points that you make are very, very important. One thing that I noted there was what I would call business fit, right? To being in an industry that defines whom you are, like you mentioned. If you're an angry person, an always angry person, you can't be in an industry that actually requires you to be somewhat smiley and happy all the time. So it's actually important that you know from yourself in terms of where you actually fit in. And the other point that you made was from a culture perspective, not forgetting our culture when we move along, when we endeavor into these businesses and try and find the best solutions, because I mean that's what a business for me is. It's actually trying to solve people's problems. You're finding solutions in an environment. But what is your take? I mean, if I were to ask you this, do you think there's a difference between an entrepreneur and a business person?
I believe there is. And funny enough, I mentioned this quite a lot. In simple terms that I can put it, you have an entrepreneur, which is basically the guy that will jump off a cliff and build his plane on his way down. Those are risk takers.
Yeah.
Those are people that will sit down and calculate the risk to say, is the going for it worth? Does it outweigh the risks that are associated? The benefits versus the risks. Entrepreneurs are people that are always looking for new ways in terms of providing solutions in a pandemic like the COVID-19. Entrepreneurs seize opportunity. In business, people normally get frustrated. So to say. So and a businessman for me is a person that basically manages systems. So business people in most cases are more concerned with the sustainability. That's why you'd find when you have a board that is made up of business people, it becomes difficult for them to understand the entrepreneur that is the founder of the business. It's because this guy is always looking for something new.
Yeah.
You know, entrepreneur. If I was watching the movie recently. I was watching the movie Think Like a Man. Entrepreneur. If I that are non-committers. My relationship is serious. You know, they always want something new. You know, but a businessman would say, look, we've got something that is viable. We've got something that is potentially sustainable. How do we develop systems that will make sure that this thing actually outlives the entrepreneur? So I basically say that in my understanding, in my perception, that is a slight difference. That's why you'd find when you give entrepreneurs challenges in terms of establishing the business, they accept them warmly and they run. But when you give a businessman similar challenges, it becomes a bit of overwhelming for them. But give them something that just needs systems, more from a management perspective, than entrepreneurs. I mean, business people would likely flourish. Yeah. I go on to further make a statement to say that every entrepreneur needs a businessman. Because you'd find a lot of time when you're engaging with entrepreneurs and you talk about administration of the business, they start scratching their head. Especially artists, you know, engage with a lot of artists. People about tungayo. All they are obsessed about is making garments. All they're obsessed about is creativity. And as a result, it becomes a challenge when they want to expand, because the minute you want to expand, we start asking you where are your bank statements, where are your compliance documents.
Yeah.
Where are your transactional histories? And they start looking at you and thinking, these guys, this is red tape. You know? But when you have a businessman, a business person, a more administrative, a more structural, organized person next to you, then they easily put those into perspective. So in as much as I believe that there's a difference, I further go and say that every entrepreneur needs a business person by their side.
Okay. Should I ask it this way then? Do you think there's a balance when someone says, if you're running your own business, do you think you can ever find the balance between, I'm an entrepreneur, yes, but I've got that business element or that business person in me as well? Is there a balance, or is it something that you must just accept that there's never a time where you're going to be an entrepreneur and a business person at the same time? Or is there a balance between the two?
No, you can be an entrepreneur and a business person at the same time. But we must just remember that not everything is for everyone, right? So you'd find, for example, Ulungile is a speaker. Ulungile is a trainer. Ulungile's focus is on training. So you called me up and you say, Lungile, I've got 150 people that I need you to train. I go there, I train, I walk out, and I say, okay, I've trained, pay me. Then you say, okay, give me your roll call, your register, give me your invoice, give me your bank confirmation. And I start thinking, you know, but you get a Lungile who has those elements. But the challenge is that in the long run, it gets overwhelming. That's why there's a proverb that says, if you wanna go fast, go alone. But if you wanna go far, take a couple of people with you.
100%.
Jim Collins makes the very same illustration in his book Good to Great. After I think about 21 years of research, they established that, look, if you're driving an enterprise or business to a certain direction, you need to make sure that you've got the right people in the bus. Because if you don't have the right people in the bus, you'll be sitting with people that will be complaining when there's a tire puncture. They say, yeah, you understand? But if you've got the right people, they'll be like, okay, you know what? Let's just step out, because when we're in the bus, the pressure is going to be too much. Let's step out, change the tire, and we continue. So the environment at which that you want to establish yourself and establish your business is also very important. So you can have a person that has both attributes, but in most cases you have one that needs the other. You know, especially from when you're dealing with creatives, especially when you're dealing with artists. A person will say, "Hey man, I'm rap." You know, what is when I'm a paper, I'm admin, when I'm a CIPC, and you get what I'm saying. But then you get someone who's probably running a business, a consultancy. That person will most likely be at par on both levels. To say that in as much as I provide a consultancy service, I need to make sure that I invoice for this particular voice. You get what I'm saying? Another one just says, I want these guys to hear what is in me, and they forget to invoice. You know, so you only need a Lungile that is gonna say, "Hey, Mchana, don't forget to pay." You know. So in a nutshell, you can have one person that has both characteristics, but for that person it gets tiring. Because you need to be careful as an entrepreneur that you don't overwhelm yourself to a point where you burn out. It's difficult to come back from a burnout. You know, so it's just make sure that as you build, in most cases you start alone. You know, in most of the time. But as you start developing now, this idea that we're going to talk about briefly, we'll start developing this idea, then you begin to realize, which, okay, here I need this character, I need this type of a person, I need this, you know, and that's why you find a lot of people that build brands they begin to take their face away from the brand and start leaving you with a brand image. Because they know that if Lungile remains a brand to NoZulu Solutions, anything that affects Lungile affects the company, you know. And so I start giving a brand name, and then I start outsourcing or bringing in people that have more expertise. And I think entrepreneurs also need to get to that point of accepting that in as much as we can do all things, it's tiring, it's demanding. In as much as I've done accounting, I know that there are people that can do accounting better than me from a business perspective. You understand? So I've got the basics, but I've got a chartered accountant friend, you know, and that skill is critical for where I want to be. So I must be able to sit back and actually have a drawing board and say, okay, if this is where I want to go, this is what I need.
Yeah, the power of delegation. I absolutely agree with that.
Important. It's important.
It's very important. And just bringing it back home a little bit. I'm going to take gender out of this for a second, and ask you this question. As South Africans, so I'm going to take gender out, but I'm going to bring in for a second the race, right? I'm going to bring in, and I'm going to be very specific, and we're looking at Black South Africans, right? I want to ask this question. As young Black South Africans, right, do you think we are in a mental state to actually take ideas and make them work at this present moment? Do you think we are still suffering from the effects of apartheid to some degree or to some extent? Is that residue still in there that gives this? Because sometimes I feel there's this lack of confidence that we as Black individuals kind of portray and we don't have. I mean, what is your take on that?
It's, you know, with my partner, for example, when we argue or we disagree on something, and let's say for a change, she does something wrong. Most of the time we do things wrong. She does something wrong. and I'm kahle, or it hurts me. And she pressures me to be okay. She pressures me to forgive. She pressures me to heal. That does not assist the conflict that we have. Right? So point one, it's important that whenever we discuss the issue of race, not going too deep into it, whenever we discuss the issue of race, we start having conversations where even us as Blacks amongst each other, we don't push each other to prescribe how the person that we have hurt should heal. So my partner cannot say, but no, you can't prescribe how I heal. But a healing process is a process that requires me to actually acknowledge the state of emotion that I'm in. Therefore, then I begin to say, okay, I'm angry. Me staying angry, how does that benefit what we are trying to build? How does that benefit where we are going? How does that benefit me as an individual? Right? Now we come back to the issue of apartheid and race. The conversation that we should be having should be conversations that the point of departure is, yes, we have been wrongly done. Yes, we might not have been there. You know, a lot of people will argue, why are you still crying racism when you were not even born? We might not have been there, but the impact of that treatment is what our grandparents and our parents have trickled down on us. Where my grandmother was made to believe that she can never own a mansion. The minute I start speaking of a mansion, my grandmother thinks in a protective manner, she starts to think, oh, my grandchild is thinking so big about something that he might never have. And my grandmother begins to cushion me for disappointment. That is the effect of what affected her. So to a certain extent, it still does have that impact, which in my case, I believe that hence no Zulu solutions. We believe that, look, let's have honest conversations in the business sector. Let's have honest conversations amongst each other, where we actually admit to from where I come from. I mean, we used to argue with my grandmother. You know, I'd ask her for money, and my grandma would say, "Yo, you want this? You know, we are poor. You know, we don't have money." And there was a point I said to my grandmother, Gogo, please, man, when you are poor, be poor alone, out of respect. Don't include me in the state of poverty.
Yeah.
with no disrespect, but then you get to understand the context from where she's speaking from. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the chain that I am trying to break based on what I've been exposed to. So there is that element. So we need to get to a point where we say, this has affected us. Looking at where we come from and where we are going, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to proceed under being built on the foundation of anger and hatred towards the other race? Do we want to proceed from the foundation of not having confidence in terms of what we are capable of doing as Black people? Do we want to proceed from a point of saying we have been dealt the wrong hand, and therefore we might never make it? We run, but we don't believe that we'll actually get to the finish line. Then that becomes a personal psychological conversation that you need to have, where you begin to say, Esulungile, this is where I want to be. And this is where now you isolate every other thing, where it's just you and yourself. And you say, yes, my family did not have much. Yes, Ekaya, we did not grow up sidli rice every day. Rice be going to a Sunday, nama veg. Yes, I had 2 pairs of shoes. One is for the school Monday to Friday. The other pair is for Sunday. Saturday being 𝐋𝐮𝐧𝐶𝐢𝐥𝐞 𝐌𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐴. That is my reality based on where I come from. But where am I going? And what do I need to get to where I'm going? Do I need a baggage of bitterness? Do I need the jacket of anger? Do I need the hat of poverty mentality? Do I need the sneakers of inferiority complex? And therefore I begin now to say, this is what I need, and I clothe myself. You get what I'm saying?
I get it.
And I'm gonna emphasize this from what Mahatma Gandhi says. One of my favorite statements. He says, your belief determines your thoughts. Right? So now you need to get to a point as an entrepreneur and say, look, I want to build this empire. I want to build for my grandchildren now. The first point of departure is, do I believe I can do it? And before you get an affirmation from Olungile, before you get an affirmation from Facebook, before you get an affirmation anywhere, you must be able to stand up and say, yeah, I believe I can do it. But you see, the reality of your mind, the reality of your state will say, but you don't have the capital, but you don't have a supportive family, but you know, you still have those negativities. But then it becomes your responsibility to win that battle within yourself. In most cases, you need to be able to stand up for yourself within yourself. A proverb says that if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. So the minute you begin to conquer the negative parts, they are there, they come naturally. But the minute you begin to conquer that, then you are well ahead in terms of achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve. Then he says your thoughts become your words. So you have this set of belief which triggers what you constantly think, and what you constantly think triggers what you ultimately say. You know, that's why I told you sometimes mawuhleli namajita beshaya imbombi bese le ibshaya kakhulu, then sekeqala ukusitshela indaba zethu ahle kwena uvela uyisinayo wena ngikuncane wena. You understand? Yeah, dala ngibona ukuthi uzenza ngcono. And then we want to blame it on imbombi. But you find that these have been thoughts that have actually been troubling this person. But now totally plug ukutshela. So your thoughts then begin to become what you say. As a man thinketh, so he becomes. And that is basically from the point that says what you say basically becomes what you do. That's why a person and you must remember what you say is highly influenced by your thoughts. Sometimes you can trick your words, but ultimately what you do will stem from what you have been constantly thinking about. You know. So black man, if you constantly think about success, ultimately you will become success. Black man, if you constantly think about loving your partner more, you ultimately become that person. Black man, if you constantly think about getting out of the gutter, you ultimately walk out of the gutter. There's an expression that says if you sit at the barber for too long, you'll end up having a haircut. You get what I'm saying? So ultimately, what you consume your mind with, it ultimately becomes the things that you say and the things that you do. And now your actions then become your habits. Robin Sharma, in his book, he says that the concept of habit is a tested one. The book, the 5 a.m. Club. And he says that, look, if you want to establish a new habit, you need about 66 days. The first 21 days is disruption. So you're basically knocking out a particular habit. You get what I'm saying? And you must not be hard on yourself. I'm gonna make an example with me. I used to smoke. You get. And me smoking, I started thinking, this thing, I don't want to do it anymore, you know. That's my paper. Cold as it is, that thing will say, it's time to go now, Baba. Must move. And then you stay outside there, you know. So that used to be a habit. And I decided, look, I want to knock this habit out. But I did not wake up the following day and no longer did that. You get. But what I would do, true story, I would be sitting there with a cig in my hand, and I'd be like, no, so I'm conditioning my mind to actually tell my entire system that I don't need this thing anymore. You get what I'm saying? So for some time, I was like, no, I'm no longer, because what you think becomes what you say, and it becomes what you do. And then ultimately, after some time, I realized, which I know, man. And I even forgot when was the last time I did. You get what I'm saying? Then you begin to form new habits. So the first 21 days, it will be most likely to disrupt the negative habit. The second set of 21 days is to introduce the new habit. And the last one will be to integrate. For after 66 days, you'll be doing, there are certain people that started certain habits during the lockdown. And those things basically become a part of their life. Habit 12. You know what I'm saying? So when it's back to work, they struggle because now they need to reboot and rebuild another habit. So habits are critical because habit basically becomes the things that make you who you are in the long run. So those habits become your values, your values of integrity. So
So let's take me through this chain of process, right? So I've built that confidence, right? So I'm now confident. I'm engaging in in habits or daily things that become habits and that force me to think as somewhat of an entrepreneur, right? I'm developing those ideas and those mindsets, and I want them to manifest and become reality, right? So now my first question is, as well, as an advisor, have you ever come across a stupid idea or a stupid business idea?
There's no such.
Mm.
You must remember, you must remember you are unique.
Mm.
For the fact that out of the whatever billion people that exist in the world, and you have your unique fingerprint, it must tell you something.
Yeah.
For the fact that out of the many sperms that you are the one that to reach the finish line and be birthed and survive 9 months in a dark place that no one knows, it means that there's something that is unique about you. So there's no such thing as a stupid idea. It's stupid to people that don't understand you. That's why at some point are they really crazy? Sometimes when you are the one person that does something different from what everybody else is doing, then you are given a certain name.
Yeah.
So when you think of an idea that no one is talking about, then they say it's stupid because it's not common. So for me, I don't believe that there's a stupid idea. It can't be. Yeah. I mean, Edison spoke about developing a light bulb. There's someone that probably said,
True that. So I mean, as an individual, so now I've kicked out the notion of a stupid idea, right? I've kicked it out, and I strongly believe in the product or service that I'm about to give out or roll out. What's next? I mean, how do I take that business idea and make it into a reality? How do I, if I want to start a cleaning business, for say, like, where do I start? Where do I go? How do you advise people on that?
So you've got an idea. This idea has come up. One of the things
not stupid. It's not stupid because it's not.
It can never be. It can never be.
Yeah.
And this idea, I mean, you know, I was actually showing my daughter. I was looking around, and yabona kunesivalo ibhodlela, like a cool drink.
Yeah.
Someone actually thought of that. Yeah. Imoto kunamabhout. So there's someone who actually said, kahle create about. You know, so small, it might look small, but it's not stupid. It might be too big for other people to understand, but it's not stupid. So you've got this idea, you harness it, you become obsessed with it. If you believe that something is gonna work, become obsessed with it. You get what I'm saying? I normally like making illustrations with relationships because they're easy to resonate with. If you realize sometimes, I don't know, maybe other people have never gone through the things that I've gone through. Imedi mainyala and you know, because it gives me a challenge, like
you up for it.
And it gives me a challenge to have a different approach, you know, to have a different strategy, to say how do I speak her language? You get what I'm saying? So it's important that the minute you've got your idea, you harness it, you become obsessed with your idea. Because when you become obsessed with your idea, the more you think about it, is the more you establish different strategies on how to implement it. And now that you've got your idea, one thing that is important is a vision. Is a vision. A lot of us, especially Black people, we don't believe in the concept of visions, where you write down a vision to become a partner of choice in human capital development. You know, a vision is what actually gives you a direction of where you want to go. I normally say, have a vision for your personal life, have a vision for your family, have a vision for your company. So you develop a vision. Now I want to start a company that is going to go to space. I need to have a vision. My vision is to make sure that I take people to space through the innovative thinking that I have. After you have develop a vision, you have a mission. You see, some of these things are things that we normally hear, but we think they too corporate, or we think they too big, or we think they too distant. And you get a lot of abachi that way to say, mina mfethu yankena ukuthi ngispanele kasi mos business encane. Lento zama vision, into zamangamla. It's what you need in order for you to have some form of understanding of where you want to be. You get what I'm saying? So once you have a vision, then you begin to have a mission. Then you begin to have your values. Then you begin to have objectives. This is what is important. By the year 2025, I want to have sold 300 books. By the year 2025, I want to have spoken on 650 platforms. That is the objective. It must be specific. The SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and it must be time bound. So sometimes the reason you don't see our progress is because you don't have those strategic objectives. I'm one person that says that you need to be able to appreciate every milestone that you make. So mina mangibhale exam, I study. So I'll study throughout the night. Ngibhale exam. Sometimes ngiyangishaya, sometimes ngiyayishaya. You get what I'm saying? But when I come from the exam, I'm gonna buy myself either an ice cream to say, well done on actually sticking it out and studying. My boy exam ngishayile. I'm gonna buy myself a burger. I'm gonna take myself out and say, I want to appreciate myself for sticking it through. You try that. You'll see the impact it will start having on your life. And then that's what then drives you. So even with your idea, that's what you do. You have you have those objectives, and the most important thing is you act. There are a lot of people that just want to think things and wish things. It won't happen. I normally say that yes, you can dream, but you cannot build it in a dream. You have to wake up at some point and start building the dream and start chasing the dream. So planning is important. A common say says that if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail automatically. You get what I'm saying? So my black brother, my black sister, young entrepreneur, you need to plan and you need to follow things through. Sometimes we give up on the first kick. So we need to follow things through. So there's someone that posted there the power of visualization. So some people, they function like that. So once you've got this idea, the reason why I'm saying you become obsessed with it is because when you sleep, that must be what you see. When you wake up, that must be what you see. Because the minute you do that, then you start walking in that space. You get what I'm saying? I used to speak on the mirror. Look now, I'm speaking to you. I used to speak on the mirror. When I went to TUT, just a brief demonstration of what I'm trying to get through. At home we had no money. So they at home they said no, apply. And I went into the room and said, these guys, they say I must apply for school, but they're not giving me money. I only had the money to apply. You remember, my apply, you have to pay an application fee. At that time it was 180. So I took my 180. I remember I for 𝐾𝐵𝐶. I'd never seen an auditorium in my life. I'd never been to a university. But when I made that deposit to the account of TUT, as I was standing in that queue, as a 𝐾𝐵𝐶, 𝐾𝐵𝐶, there's always a queue. You never go wrong. As I was standing in that queue, I began to visualize myself sitting in an auditorium chair and listening to someone from the front who is a lecturer. I began to obsess with that reality. Couple of weeks, they gave me a letter, I'm approved. My first year in TUT, I stood at that auditorium and I saw myself addressing the auditorium. Lo and behold, a year later, I became the president of that campus. So the minute you begin to build images of what you want to be, of where you want to be, you begin to attract that energy so that you can be able to build up your idea. Ideas are able to become something that manifests in the physical. It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
You just need to believe it.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Visualize and obsess.
Obsessed.
I like that. I like that.
Obsessed.
I like that. So, I mean, in your time as an advisor and stuff, what are the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs kind of make? Um, this was one of the questions that we received.
Some of the most common mistakes is not paying attention to detail.
Mm.
So if there's an opportunity for you to get funding or to get some sort of leverage over something, and they say submit 1, 2, 3, and 4, submit 1, 2, 3, and 4. Don't submit 1, 2, 3, and 5. That is not there.
Yeah.
And when they respond to you, you say, "Oh, is it because I'm black?" No. Pay attention to detail. You see, when you obsess about something, even the way that you conduct yourself towards that thing becomes such that when you are in that space, you are able to be accessible. So when that thing looks at you, it's able to be attracted to you. You get what I'm saying? So if for example you want to run a consulting business, start dressing in a way that you want to be addressed. You get what I'm saying? And start living the part. Start speaking the type of language that consultants speak. Start conducting yourself in that manner. So pay attention to detail. The second thing is have an understanding of the environment at which you want to operate and contend. Young people, we need to start actually using the available frameworks. There's Potter's 5 strategy when you want to actually evaluate, does this thing have a chance where I want to start it? So you start using the Potter's 5. You look at your barriers to entry. You look at your exit barriers. You look at your competitors. You look at the buying power. Or you know, the influence, the power of the consumer, the power of the supplier. If, for example, the consumer has so much power that when they hold back their purchases, your company shuts down, you need to be able to develop a strategy around that. If your consumer are so powerful that the minute they hold any delivery for a day or two, your business shut down, you need to make sure that you develop a strategy of saying, can I have multiple consumers that are on the pipeline? You understand? The other thing is that you need to, there's a concept of the SWOT analysis that is normally thought to be a school term. A SWOT analysis is important even for your individual life. You get what I'm saying? So a SWOT analysis say, what are my strengths? What are my strengths in the industry that I want to take? You know, the strengths that I have is that I can speak. I have the confidence to stand in front of people and speak. You get what I'm saying? So if I do not have that, it will be a weakness. Then the question would be, how do I develop this? You know, the time that I'm going to spend developing this, is it worth more than the time that I can use to reach out on my strength and develop my strength? So you do your SWOT analysis. What are the threats? What are the opportunities? So the second problem is that we don't do enough research in the industry that we want to partake in, and we don't use the available frameworks that will be required in order for us to establish something that is viable in the sectors that we want to be in.
I see we're almost running out of time. I think we could like have a conversation for days. I've really enjoyed spending this hour with you. I honestly thought it was only 30 minutes ago. But anyways, this has been a great conversation.
It's an hour already.
It's an hour already. 20 seconds left. So thank you so much for coming through. I honestly hope we can have you as a part 2 and continue this conversation, continue engaging with you further in the future.
It's an honor, and I like to appreciate the